Democracy's basement to your ears. This is the weekly meeting of the Queen City Improvement Bureau. Each week, the dedicated staff of the Bureau meet to file recommendations, make reports, and survive on water that drips from the boiler pipes into our open mouths as we sleep on a bed of dot matrix printer paper. Maybe one day we'll escape from the subterranean hell that is the sub-basement, but until that day comes, the city is not going to improve itself. So here we stay, improving things. This meeting is now in session.
Hello.
What?
Hey.
What?
Howdy ho.
Oh, sorry. You have to speak up.
Why?
Because I'm
Do you have fuzz in your ears?
Yes.
Why?
I have fungus in my ears.
Fungus
From the walls.
in your
Yeah, I'm trying to... Well, the people next door have been playing their music so loud.
Yeah.
And it's just getting to me.
So you stuck fungus in your ears?
Yeah, and I think it's grown in there and taken root. So I'm possibly part fungus now.
That's not good.
Yeah, I figure once it gets in there a bit more, my hearing will come back, and I can deliver messages from the fungus world.
Oh, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, some rhizomatic
through the
news.
mycelium.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe there'll be some news.
Some news from the fungus
outside
world. Oh, from the outside.
From the outside world.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
So you're just going to ignore the fungus news?
What?
Today in fungus.
Today in fungus news.
Yeah.
Not much happened.
Yeah.
It's delicious. That's or poison. Anyway, enough with the fungus bit.
Okay.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Cool.
Yeah.
Should we take attendance?
We probably should.
All right. I'm Aidan.
I'm Paul.
Paul Deschênes?
Paul Deschênes, yeah.
Am I Aidan Morgan?
You are.
Oh, well, okay, we're all here.
You're getting really good at this.
I know. After 10 years, I figured out our names.
Yeah.
I feel pretty good.
So do we have quorum?
We do not.
Dang it.
One day.
Someday.
But we don't have quorum, but we do have a guest.
Excellent. We have Ward 3 Councillor, Mr. David Froh.
Howdy, guys. What if we just delegated authority to you guys to make the decisions?
We would love that.
Well,
I would love that.
Everything's figure-outable.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Can we pass that? If we had quorum, we could pass that and make it official.
We could change the legislation.
We could?
Yeah, we could delegate authority to you. Well, what would be the first decision you would make?
Well, I think, first of all, I would get the door open so we could go outside.
Yeah, that would be nice.
New sandwiches in the sandwich machine.
Uh-huh.
And really, my aspirations only go that high.
Yeah, less fungus, and some light.
Yeah,
seems reasonable.
I say I want less fungus now, but I know I'll miss it when it's gone.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And put in the city on wheels so we can finally, if we want to visit Moose Jaw, go to the spa.
Yeah.
We don't need to get in cars. We just go over.
A new definition of the Moose Jaw Regina corridor.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And we can annex Moose Jaw. That'll be great.
I've heard tell that you can sit in a pool that's heated geothermally there.
I heard tell that you could take over Moose Jaw with a phone call if you could get somebody to pick up, saying, I don't know why I'm taking shots at Moose Jaw. They're very nice over there. Please don't hurt us, Moose Jaw.
Yeah. So, David, there's been a council meeting. You guys have come off hiatus, came off strong, and turned a big swath of land into a nature preserve.
Yeah, you bet.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. And of course, council, myself included, had a very small role to play. It really has to do with, folks and conservationists from Regina that have been documenting some of the plants and the species there. But it is a really interesting story because, of course, where we talk right now in the dungeon that you're sitting in, we really are talking on one of the most changed landscapes on Earth, right? It is one of the most altered ecosystems ever. And so, we're pretty proud in Saskatchewan of our, one of the most productive agriculture regions in the world, but it's one of the most changed landscapes. And so there's, about 1% of natural prairie left in the Regina Plains. But I think what makes this story really unique is that we're not only going to protect 55 acres of this land, which is just behind the Caledonian Curling Club forever, thereby, protecting part of our story as prairie people in our past. But actually, I think it's a catalyst, if you will, for optimism in that, it's going to give us an opportunity to test out how we use natural grasses and shrubs and plants to advance some of the priorities in our Parks Master Plan. So we want to use more natural grasses. And, you can, by doing so, you can not only reclaim some of your park space, or when you're building a new park, use it. And so there's lots of reasons, right? There's financial reasons. It takes less water. There's environmental reasons. You sequester a lot of carbon. It helps with water management. And there's biodiversity reasons. But yeah, it's really cool. There's in 2029 in it's the old Craig Golf Course. I used to skip class and go there and golf a few holes when I was skipping class from Sheldon.
Really?
And so the fairways have a fair bit of invasive grass. But it's actually kind of by accident we fell into a good timing, because there's going to be a water main trunk moving through part of it. Thankfully, it's not the very ecologically sensitive area where the prairie crocuses sort of bloom. But actually, it's going to allow us to remediate that area with natural grasses. So we're going to learn a lot, right? And we can partner with Nature Regina and figure out what to plant and how to do better next time.
Awesome. So this is by the Cali and the dog park?
That's exactly right. So
and it goes like quite far south too, right?
It sure does. You know, the best way to get there is to park in the west parking lot of the Caledonian Club, the Cali there. And you can walk out. Some folks run there, but yeah, it's just behind the creek, adjacent to the dog park. And it, honestly, like it's quite large. Like it's bigger than you might think. The first little area past the parking lot is really the area that has the most diversity of plants and flowers. But it's a lovely place to go on a fall day for sure.
Nice.
So wait, so you park outside of this place? You don't drive into it?
You could bike. You could take public transit. You could walk. You could take the Devonian path. I run by there every morning. So there's lots of ways to get yourself there. But yeah, if you're in need of driving, you most certainly can. It's really easy to get to. And then in the spring every year, Nature Regina does the crocus walk, and so Trevor Harriott and naturalists sort of they'll educate and they'll walk through. And so no, it's really cool. And honestly, it's a privilege, because I grew up as a kid with a mom and a dad who were birders, and I've spent lots of time with my own family at grasslands. And this is not pristine grass, but it's actually quite remarkable, the diversity in that small 55-acre area. And I think, like I said, it gives us an opportunity to not only do research, but frankly to use that area to do more, right?
Yeah.
Cool. And it passed unanimously,
yeah,
right? Which doesn't always happen.
Yeah. Yeah, there was hardly any discussion of it at all. I mean, there was no debate about it. There was a discussion. But
we decided to come back after summer break being just ruthlessly efficient.
Oh.
Did you notice that?
And agreeable.
And agreeable.
Nice.
Yeah.
How much is this going to cost us as a city?
Well, I mean, it's a flood fringe area, so in the short term it will cost nothing. Yeah. There may be some additional costs in the long term, as when the trunk comes through, in that when you rehabilitate that land with natural grasses and you propagate and you do things properly, there may be a little bit of a cost. But the beauty of naturalized space and parklands is eventually it costs less. Like, it uses less water. Right. Natural grass is thrashed. You don't have to mow it. I think Nature Regina is thinking of some walking paths and some signage. But we maintain parks anyways, and of all the parks we have, this will be so far material less. So I would say starting with zero. Nature Regina will do some fundraising, but based on the research that we're going to do there, because Shannon Zakidniak thankfully amended the motion, what it should do is inform future plans in our park and urban landscape. So that's probably why it was unanimous. There's no real cost in the interim. But all of my colleagues, including those, and to their credit, are quite focused on cost. I think realize that there's immense, not just ecological benefit, but probably financial benefit of using the seeds that have lived here and survived here for 10,000 years, as Trevor Harriott says, right? They're more drought resistant than the stuff on our front lawns today.
Nice. Well, that's awesome. I'm glad that, the summer was able to end on a high note of, protecting like some natural land in the city. But now fall is coming, and the real work of council is going to begin.
Darn.
Yeah, sorry, man.
You thought you were done.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I've been hearing a lot about over the summer are issues around homelessness, people who are unhoused, and the housing crisis that continues to grip the city of Regina. I think there is a lot of hope. The encampment strategy came up at that council meeting this week, and that was a referral motion to come back with a new and improved encampment strategy and do an outreach into the community. One of the things that we were talking about, you and I, is around things like houselessness and the housing crisis, that, this really butts up against issues of jurisdiction, like what can the city do versus what is the, the responsibility of other levels of government. Like, what have you been thinking about that?
Well, I think first, to be honest, and I'm a optimistic person by nature and collaborative. I'm not optimistic, actually. I think that everything we're doing in this province, in this city, both by way of harm reduction, encampments are harm reduction, right? Shelters and warming centers do nothing to address houselessness, right? They don't. So everything we're doing around houselessness and harm reduction encampments is backwards. It's not in line with best practice. Any community around the world that has made any material progress towards getting to functional zero are not building communal shelters, right? They're not giving money to. It's easy to announce money for warming stay. And we got to keep people alive. Harm reduction is important. We got to keep people alive. But if we do that and pretend and pat ourselves on the back that we're somehow making progress towards houselessness, the way in which we solve houselessness is with housing, right? That's what we do. And we provide unconditional support to even those with the most complex needs that are the most vulnerable around us. And of course, when we do so, there's morality, but of course we also save money. It has been proven, right? It has been proven that you take the folks with high acuity and you put them in housing sort of first. But the other thing is that we don't want to normalize and institutionalize encampments, right? We don't. We have a charter obligation before we take down an encampment to make sure there's housing for people, and not just housing that we might think sort of is ideal housing that meets people where they're at. And that might be controversial, but it is the law, right? And so the reality is our encampment plan as it currently exists, no one claims it's perfect. The amendment on the houselessness crisis was to bring back what we do now, and we've been doing a lot of outreach to frontline workers and advocates to enhance that. But I have to say that so long as we address the symptoms of the problem, right, without addressing any upstream solutions, we're going to build more shelters, more people are going to die, and we'll be talking about this more and more. And it's frankly, it's maddening. Like, we are living in a backwards society in terms of how we address this issue. Now, jurisdictionally, right, we can go to the Constitution and the BNA Act, and we can have these academic debates about, what level of, as you know better than I, cities don't exist constitutionally. Like, we exist because the province made us up, and they effectively can make us do anything they like. Like, they really truly can, not to diminish our jobs. But, with a stripe of a pen, any minister, an executive council can tell us to do whatever it is that they like. But the reality is, across Canada, we are increasingly looking to the level of government least equipped with resources, least equipped with upstream policy solutions, and least, frankly, jurisdictionally responsible to deal with houselessness. We clearly have a role, on housing. Like, no one is going to debate that, right? And we clearly have a role on harm reduction. It's just that everything we do is harm reduction, isn't it? Right? The amount of time that our emergency services attend to opioid overdoses, the amount of money that we spend, thankfully, that we do, keeping people alive, right? And compared to the amount of time that we look at housing first, that we look at how we use our land to support the vulnerable and the folks with complex needs. Thankfully, this year we're going to do some really cool stuff. We're looking at doing a community land trust right in North Central. This comes out of the civil rights movement in the United States to avoid gentrification for African American people. For very little money, we can actually take title back from abandoned lands, derelict houses, folks that haven't paid their title. We can create a land bank and then give actual home ownership to folks. And of course, because of the Indian Act, many Indigenous folks in particular haven't had access to homes. But first, you got to create the trust built by community for community. So there's some things we're doing. But on the whole, right, we spend all of our time talking about shelters. We spend all of our time talking about encampments. And we spend very little time and energy talking about the root causes as to why people find themselves unhoused. And so I'm a collaborative person. But if I look at what we're doing in Saskatchewan, Canada as a whole, since I think it's 1999, it's been over $1 billion addressing houselessness. The numbers have gone up, right? So, what we're doing isn't working. We're places that have got to functional zero, places like Finland and places like Sweden, and municipalities across Canada and the United States. Unfortunately, in those areas, municipalities have had to actually take a significant leadership role, right? Whether it's owning housing stock. What we're going to do, and sorry I'm going on here, I'll stop here. What we're going to do as a city is, and as part of the emergency that we declared, we're going to force ourselves to draw a line in the sand. And we're going to say, this is our jurisdictional responsibility. some of that might be chosen, right? We have the agency to decide where we're going to play, but then we have to do it properly, and then we have to hold other levels of government accountable, because sometimes honestly the best thing is to say no. So like, I worked at the food bank for 4 years. No one goes to a food bank because they're hungry. They don't. They come because they might not have a living wage. They come because we got food deserts in Regina where 17,000 people don't have grocery stores. We have inadequate supports for vulnerable people in our community. Maybe dad gets hurt and doesn't have. The best thing the food bank could ever do is close, right? We won't, because we feed 18,000 people a month, half of which are kids. And so we try to innovate and do different things like choice and do food sovereignty and provide, agency over and empowerment. But when you continually address the symptom, you allow civil society and government to not address the problem. And that's what we're doing with houselessness, right? So I'm sure in another year or two we're going to be talking about another shelter, and maybe Regina should say no. Maybe we should say, actually, it is the purview of the provincial government, unless you're prepared to open up a shelter that has a second stage shelter and moves towards housing first with the proper operational dollars, right? And if we're not going to do it properly, maybe we shouldn't have asked stuff as a community, and that will take some courage, because there's real life implications with that. So, I mean, I find it quite frustrating. I suspect you guys know the answer better than I do, but I realize that as a level of government most closest to people, and I realize our obligation. I'm not looking to suggest that we don't have it, but I don't see the same level of conversation day to day being had with the provincial government or with the federal government.
Right.
Yeah. Hey, we're on 91.3 FM, CJTR, Access Now, Community Radio. And we're the Queen City Improvement Bureau.
What?
And we're here with Ward 3 Councillor David Froh. Okay, so this has been an abiding problem for council for as long as I've known it.
Yeah.
And so where do you see going with this? I mean, I've heard your colleague, Councillor Sickleys, he has said multiple times, why don't we just change the Cities Act? And it's just not something we can do, right? Like, as you said, we are we're a government in quotation marks and italics at the city level, and the amount of power that we have over things like the City Act is minimal at best. Yeah. Like, how do you as a city councillor and your colleagues as a council change this narrative with this specific provincial government?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think first, you give every level of government of any political stripe the opportunity to work with you, right? And I mean, collaboration sort of works. Doesn't do any good to run a race and at the first step at the QCIB punch someone in the nose. I mean, sometimes you got to get your arms out with your kick near the finish line, and so you do have to be collaborative. I mean, I think the reality is that we need to identify where we're going to play in this space, and then absolutely do it properly. And housing is going to have to be one of it, right? Okay. So, community land trusts, Taylor Field. When we engage in harm reduction, which we have to do because we have an obligation, these folks are our neighbors after all, right? 111 people died last year. They have moms, they have brothers and spouses. Their lives are no less or more important than ours. So that comes back to the encampment strategy. We have to be prepared to be courageous and bold and frankly do what works. And so sometimes when we discuss these really sensitive things, right, it's also like really emotional. And so it can be really difficult to make decisions. I mean, it's really difficult to say, should we have bathrooms at these encampments? Should we have a permanent encampment structure? Should we? Perhaps we should. The reality is that everything that we're doing in Saskatchewan isn't working. Like, it's not. And that's not to suggest that there's a silver bullet that is going to fix houselessness, right? But if there is one sort of prevailing principle of anywhere that has sort of made progress towards addressing it, it is, basically three things. It is unconditional access to housing. It is, to the extent that you can, looking at the upstream reasons why people find themselves unhoused. And it doesn't happen overnight, right? A lot of that comes back to housing, right? What is the cost of rent in this province? What are the supports with SAID and CIS, right? And then when we do harm reduction, right, it is meeting vulnerable people where they're at and realizing that those complex needs is not as simple as saying, well, there's a place to sleep, right? It isn't that easy, just given the acuity of folks within our community. I don't think I answered your question, but I actually think the best thing that we're going to do, Paul, is say exactly what we're going to do, hold ourselves accountable to do it, budget for it and do it well, and not try to be everything to everybody and do it poorly. And I'm just a firm believer that communal shelters and warming spaces do nothing to solve houselessness.
Right.
What solves houselessness is housing first, upstream solutions, holistic supports, being honest with ourselves. We don't get to wave a magic wand and fix the reasons why people find themselves unhoused at the municipal level. But we also can do some advocacy, right, to the provincial and federal sort of folks that are out there.
Okay. I do want to push back on the notion that collaboration is a good idea. But
all right,
before we get to that...
we are delegating authority to you to fix this issue, amongst other things.
Yeah. Okay.
And just to you, because I'm feeling a little sleepy. So
okay.
The fungus.
Yeah,
it's more of an aggressive strain.
Takes a lot of.
I think we should just spread the fungus everywhere.
Yeah.
And if everybody's sleepy, then we don't have to worry about anything getting done. Because you know what they say.
Access to fungus.
You know what they say.
Yeah. What's that?
Dreams come true if you sleep all the time.
They do not say that. Anyway.
The housing first, though, that's something that has been done in Regina. It is run through Phoenix Housing.
Yeah.
And, like, where is that? I mean, I haven't heard a report on it recently. Like,
Housing First in Regina, Phoenix Residential, which went really well. We have all the data to say that it will. It's like every other thing we do in this country of late around sort of progressive policy. We were great at pilots, and we're terrible at scaling up pilots because we lack, I guess, the courage or political capital to do it. And that's actually the job of civil society, because politicians are just neighbors, after all, probably a little bit more thin-skinned. We have to start the bus and welcome them on the bus after. Now, there are housing first models across North America that are not run by government that work quite well. And so maybe we have to reimagine how that works. But the reality is, for some of the folks with the highest acuity, the highest needs, right, you're looking at societal costs of $230,000, right? We have proven that housing first costs about $30 to $55,000 a person, right? And so some of these folks need 24-hour support, and you give them unconditional housing. It means that you might be having a mental health crisis, you might be suffering from addiction still. It doesn't mean you don't have access to housing. Today, if we were so inclined, if we were collaborative, and perhaps we shouldn't be, we could go and for $1 ask for, say, 300 of the unused Regina Housing, Sask housing units, if it came with operational dollars to run Housing First. And what we've learned from Phoenix is that in probably 2 or 3 years, we would be saving tens of millions of dollars. We would be saving lives, right? And I think one of the things those of us, and there are so many of us in Regina that care about this solution, we also have to meet people where they're at, other levels of government, right? We got to use different language sometimes, right? So I actually think the provincial government has some interest in this. We just have to acknowledge where that sort of gargantuan sort of train is going and sort of see if we can't find our way in the middle a little bit. But, I mean, in the end, like, you never get a hit if you don't take a swing. We got to start taking some swings at some of this.
Okay. I hate to be that guy. But I don't know. I can't count the number of times that I've heard we think the provincial government has some interest in dealing with our housing crisis. Number of times that there have been motions on the floor of council that have called for the mayor to write a letter or advocate or increase our lobbying action. Like, over the last 10 plus years, this effort to collaborate with this government has come up multiple times, and there's also been the talk about having to, change the language and approach them at their level. And I am beginning to wonder that you have a provincial government that is completely intractable on this, that they know that they don't need votes in Regina, or Regina's being especially happy to win an election.
Yeah, I don't know, Paul. I think that's, you have better institutional knowledge, and I think the idea they don't want to win a vote is seat in Regina is presumptuous. I think actually there's an opportunity associated with the fact that, with the exception of one seat, they're wiped out in the urban centres. I mean, the reality is 90% of population growth in Saskatchewan is happening in the largest four urban centres. Yeah. So any political party that's astute, and they're very politically astute, will pay attention to that. Now, your first part, you're right. I'm in violent agreement with that, and I'm a rookie councillor. I'm not going to pontificate and pretend I know the answer to this. Other than that, we do front-end financing for a lift station. Fancy way of moving poop up and down with gravity. Yeah. Can we, on our own volition, do front end financing for folks that want to get into social housing. Maybe not. The provincial government's talked a lot about their interest in terms of addressing addiction. Now, there's right. So if you're going to do it, then do it well. Because today, if you need help, if you're suffering, right, some folks are in a state of psychosis. These synthetic opioids, right? Yeah. You can't get a bed in Saskatchewan, right? So I think in the end, what we need to do is where we're willing to work, let's do it well. And I think back to the city's role. And again, I there's so much I don't know. Like what do I know about this other than that what we're doing isn't working. Yeah. What appears to be working across the world, where places have moved to functional zero, we're doing the opposite. So it's maddening and it's not working. I think we got to call it out. And by saying what we're going to do, and people will debate it, right? People will litigate and they'll say, well, Regina, you're wrong. You should be not relying on the provincial government because they haven't made material progress. Yep. But if we say our role is in housing and harm reduction that's been proven to work with best practice, then let's do it properly, right? And so I think that's going to be the learning for this council. And of course, we got to find some convergence amongst ourselves on sort of where we're going to play as well. Okay.
So I guess ultimately, and we just got like a couple minutes here.
We're done. I talked very fast for very long.
We've got another half hour to go.
Oh, okay.
You're welcome to stick around for the next half of the show, by the by.
Where's the money going to come from? Because, this is the thing, right? Like, I would love to pay more taxes to house more people. Every budget cycle, it comes down to how close to zero can we get that mill rate increase? And every budget cycle, it comes down to we've got competing interests. And, so often housing is the thing that, it gets the butt end of the budget stick.
That's interesting because... if I've learned anything, and I really am just on a learning journey, I think most of us would be wise to realize that we know very little at this point. But, we've been living through decades of deferral. And a lot of people will sort of say, geez, the city should be run like a business. Well, it shouldn't, right? Otherwise, there'd be tolls on our roads, and we'd charge you to enter a park and stuff. But those that say that, I think, at the same token, are often quite concerned about like our level of tax. Well, the truth is, we've about a $750 million unfunded capital infrastructure deficit. Right, well, $50 million in deferred maintenance challenges at Real have $50 million in capital needs at Real, and so the honest truth is that we kept property taxes too low for decades, and we know that, and that's not popular politically to say. And we have to remember that every dollar doesn't belong to the city; belongs to our neighbors, and there are people that are really struggling to get by. Right, personal disposable income at the household level, worse if you're renting, is shrinking. And so, we might have the privilege, I do, of saying I'd be willing to pay more taxes. The reality is, for tens of thousands of people in Regina, they don't have that luxury. So we have to be mindful of that. But we will never, on our own, with property taxes, address the challenge that we have in Regina. I think the provincial government needs an urban strategy because I mentioned, the vast majority of population growth, the vast majority of employment creation, and the vast majority of new Canadians are moving to the large urban centres. And that's not to diminish rural and urban Saskatchewan. We have integrated economic supply chains. We rely on each other. We're going to talk, I think, later, Paul, about, sort of nuisance sort of bylaws. I think the other thing that we can do as a city is realize, okay, so we have a carrot, we can spend money, we sometimes have a stick, but like what are the policy mechanisms and levers that we can pull ourselves, right? And that overnight is not going to sort of produce $750 million, but success begets success in that respect. So, and I also think, we have to have hard conversations in that by most measures, Regina's property tax is still amongst the lowest in the country when you look at wallet share, when you look at medium, and so we had an assessment year, property tax raise was high, and that sucked, but I don't know, when I got elected, I promised myself I'd try to never make a decision just because it was popular. Like, I'm prepared for people to be angry if it's the right thing to do, but there is an inflection point, right? Right, and I'm not sure how to find that sort of balance, yet.
All right. Well,
so since we're delegating authority to you, Paul, because the reason why I came on here, Aidan, was actually to ask you guys, why do you subject yourself to watching hundreds of hours of city council? And secondly, where are we going to find the money? Is it down here in this dingy dungeon?
I think where we're going to find them is with innovative revenue tools.
Ooh, which are coming up next.
They are.
Nice.
All right, we're back from Innovative Revenue Tools. We're the Queen City Improvement Bureau, and we're speaking with Ward 3 Councillor David Froh.
All true.
It is.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's nice to tell the truth for a change.
Yeah.
You should tell them
from all
about how you
those
guys found out all the wonderful ways to get money while you were taking a commercial break.
Yeah, but we're keeping them because these are our ideas.
Yeah,
They're proprietary.
You have to monetize them first.
Yeah.
Precisely. Yeah.
Yeah. So, another thing that you've done since you've been on council is you brought in a motion about real.
Yeah.
Everybody's favorite. The municipal corporation that keeps on giving.
Indeed.
Because it even came up this week because you guys were talking about ice time. And there was the whole, out of the blue, Real gave up, a bunch of ice time to a private hockey school, robbing a community group of their access to ice time. And it's been a rough few years for the Real brand in the city of Regina. What are you hoping to accomplish? And what was your motion?
Well, first, I knocked on I knocked on almost 5,000 doors, and I was no different than my colleagues. I think Real was a number one thing people wanted to talk about. Mm-hmm. And I actually think that's a good thing. And the reason is, it might actually be the most important public institution and piece of infrastructure we have in the city. Because
apart from the Improvement Bureau.
Apart from the Improvement Bureau. No, but it's publicly owned. You get well over 1 million people that come there, right? Tens of thousands of people from out of town. I'm certainly there many times a week for soccer and ringette. And so people are passionate about it because they care, right? And so that's a good thing. In my estimation, the whole purpose of my motion was we actually can't afford to relitigate Real's existence every single year. It is too big to fail, actually. It's too important to our community to fail. And I come from an economic development background. It is actually one of the few assets we have in our city that actually sets us apart from a small, medium sort of city. Those convention and sporting assets are quite good if you look at comparators across the country. Okay, so leave that aside. The reality is, we had a challenge and we lost public trust. But that's just the symptom. That's just the smoke. So 2019, 2018, we're subsidizing Real to the tune of $200,000. The truth is, might not be popular. It should have been $3 or $4 million. So today, Real has $17 million in debt. To be true, some of that came from COVID, not all. It has a very significant operational shortfall. But it has about $50 million in unfunded capital requirements. So what that means is, over time, we didn't treat Real like we take care of our houses, right? We didn't we didn't take care of the roof, and we didn't do the regular maintenance when it was required. And so entities like Real across the country, they're all funded differently, right? But one commonality would be, those assets are owned by us. The buck stops with, by all of us, all 237,000 of us, meaning that we should have been taking care of those assets the whole time. We own them. So it was incredibly disingenuous to suggest that Real could make money, right? They weren't making money. What we want from Real is we want Real to be an exceptional service provider. We want them to take care of their assets. But what we really want Real to do is advance public good, right? What is in the best interest of the city? So in the end, what this is about is let's stop relitigating Real's existence. If we're going to be honest with ourselves, whether Real exists as an independent municipal corp or whether we dissolve them, which basically this motion is about. It's do we dissolve Real as municipal corp? We take over the physical assets and the operational control, or do they maintain their work as an independent municipal corp? Either way, if you look at the numbers, and anyone can, right, there isn't a scenario, not short, not medium, long term, where they're going to break even or make money. It's not going to happen. Real is functionally insolvent, and they're probably going to need somewhere between $8 and $9 million a year for the next decade. And now they might work really, really hard, and they might attract events, and they might increase their efficiency ratio, and that may become $6 million or $7 million, right? So good for them. We should expect them to be strong stewards of the public dollar. So if we take a step back and we say, okay, We're angry with Real. That doesn't do us any good anymore, right? Should Real be independent, or should Real come under the city? In the end, the entire decision, right? You frame up your analysis. The entire decision is about what's in the best interest of the city, right? And then you got some principles. Okay, well, one of them is how we take care of our assets. One of them is how do we provide service to the people of Regina. One is how do we mitigate risk and maintain sort of public trust. So we do things as a city. You guys know them better than I. We have a cultural plan. We have a recreational plan. We have a master plan. We have an OCP, right? Well, Real doesn't exist independent of any of those things. We don't do what's best for Real or the cathedral area, right? Our job is to do what's best for the city. And we got to ask ourselves, how best do we advance the city of Regina's interests with Real? Because I don't expect the Sandra Smirler to make money. I don't. I expect it to be an important public service. I expect them to take care of their building well. When people go there, the staff to be friendly, right? So if you're booking a wedding or a hockey tournament at Real, right, you want to have an excellent experience. You want there to be comparable rates. But we do things in this city for recreation every single day that cost us money. And so that's not to say that financials shouldn't be considered, but this is not a financial consideration. So my hope is when we make the decision, we give Real a fresh start. And we do that by being honest and transparent about what it's going to cost. We change forever how we take care of the assets. And we stop, frankly, kicking them while they're down. They got a volunteer board. These are volunteer board of directors, right? They're spending an inordinate amount of time. They got a new CEO. They're doing lots of really good stuff. The decision as to whether to be independent or not can't be theirs. It's unfair. But they deserve a lot of credit for the work they're doing. But I don't know. I always think, like, you make a hard decision, you make it early, you be transparent about it. It is going to cost us a lot of money for a long time, but we don't stand up every day and go, man, the cooperators are in costs. I mean, the cooperators is real, but you get my point, right? It is a public good and a public asset. And I think we got to decide what's in the public good, because it's just not a financial consideration. Like it's hot air to suggest that Real is going to make money in the next decade.
Yeah, and I think that there was that MNP report from a few years ago, which basically said that there's absolutely no way that it can. One of the most interesting things that came out of that report, though, with respect to Real, was that. So it broke down the major business lines that Real deals with, and sports, rec, and rentals. So this is all the rec uses. So it's things like the Cooperator Center. It's like youth soccer, minor sports. It's also trade shows, like people who go in there to sell handicrafts. Yeah. Though this is all in the sports, rec, and rentals line item. The return on that, so the EBITDA,
it's pretty good.
Yeah. Nice. So the EBITDA is it's 41.3%.
Yeah.
That is contributing. Meanwhile, your major tenants, like your Riders, your Pats, your WHL hub, that's only 23%. The events that the city has saddled them with, like Frost, is the negative part. That's where they're losing money. And then signature events like Queen City X, they're coming in at 19%. Major events like concerts and Grey Cup, they come in at 36% that they're contributing to the earnings at the building. And this is all absent that infrastructure deficit that the place is facing. But I think it's fascinating that we all look at Real and we go, well, Real needs to make money by having more AC/DC.
You need 7 Grey Cups a year for Real to break even.
Exactly. Meanwhile, the thing is...
Seems easy to me.
Yeah, we just need more football leagues.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. 5 more football leagues,
UFL,
7 more Grey Cups.
AFL, CFL.
Yeah. But that it is the Sandra Smirler, effectively, that's making money at Real. It's our our community that builds this place up, and I feel like we didn't get the credit we deserve. Everybody's looking to the Riders and the Rolling Stones to make Real solvent, and yet we're the backbone.
It's such a great point. Don't forget, though, that the operating entity itself, you got a 4-legged stool, the things they do, and then you got to also operate the company.
Yes.
Right? The operating entity, right in the middle there, that it loses a lot of money, and maybe that's okay. We can certainly do better. But you're right. It is the ringette, right? It is the soccer. It is the youth hockey. It is the crafts that go on there, and of course, Agribition contributed, I think, $750 million to their bottom line. Now, the other thing you got to be careful with when you make a decision, and people say, why does things take so long? It's like, well, you got to be careful you don't have a blind spot. A reel's been around since, 1884? So you don't want to use a period of time and suggest that that's the norm and that will always be the future either. So you have to be careful not to over-index with these things. But I think you're bang on, Paul. And in the end, my intention was the opposite of kicking them when they're down. It was to make a decision, be transparent of what it was going to cost, to endorse fully and materially a strategic roadmap by the new board, or to say it's in the best interest of people in Regina to manage this like we manage other sort of civic assets, right?
Yeah. The whole idea, though, behind it being a municipal corporation was that it was supposed to be entrepreneurial, and it was supposed to seek out profit opportunities, and that it was going to cover this massive infrastructure deficit effectively by inviting the Rolling Stones to come here as often as they could. And
they're getting old.
Grey Cups. They are getting very old.
Yeah. They're going to have to come back soon.
Well, and actually, the whole notion of large concerts like that is just getting old, right? So, I don't know where I was going with this beyond that. It almost seems like real as it was constituted, however many years ago that was, and it wasn't that long ago actually, that it was turned into what it is now. It almost seems like that's might be an idea that's aged out.
Yeah, it's interesting. Prairieland Park in Saskatoon, though, right? The Saskatoon City Council or city government has always fully funded those assets. So when you look at, and MMP did, when you look at the 30-odd sort of comparables, one, there's no equal sort of comparable. Part of the benefit of an independent municipal corp is that it should be nimble. It need not be nimble to go out and be entrepreneurial and make money, but it might be nimble within the provision of a public good. So we might say, hey, Real, we want you to do a truth and reconciliation, sort of event. We have to be okay that probably cost $150,000. Right? For us, it's a lot of fun. People enjoy it. We should do it or not do it. But if it's going to cost Real $700,000, let's be honest and transparent about it. Make a decision and say we can live with that or we can't, and we don't do it. Right? So, but Real sometimes historically has been able to move quicker, and there's been lots of it. So we talk about the outdoor hockey game we had, or a Grey Cup. Historically, Real has been really good at bidding on large events and trade shows and conferences. You mentioned that the concert market has changed, and it has, right? It's gotten much more expensive and tricky, right? So if Real stays independent, it is the job of the board to look at how they're going to do things. I suspect there's an opportunity whereby you might go to a partner that has the money to underwrite the risk and they could realize a return for a big concert, right? Because Real acting as a promoter, when they don't have the money, it's really risky to go out and buy a show, right? If you don't get the butts in the seats. And again, I don't claim to know the right answer. I met the CEO of Real, and when I met with city staff, I was really careful to say, I honestly have no bias here, right? I want sort of an impartial analysis from the city staff, because I think when we're done, we will all benefit from not relitigating Real's existence every year.
Is it nimbleness, though? Right? I hear that word a lot. I'm not 100% sure I understand what it means in this context. And isn't it just expertise, right? Real has hired a group of people who have expertise in bringing in shows and putting on a thing like Frost. And there's no reason that couldn't be, expertise that the city itself could have hired. And also, doesn't that also create this conflict within this organization that you have a group of people who've been hired for their expertise to put on shows, to bring in the Rolling Stones? Meanwhile, the foundation of their business is providing functional spaces for kids to play indoor soccer in. And these are two wildly different tasks.
Unless you got the Rolling Stones to play soccer, one side of the team.
Dang.
Yep, see?
He can still dance, but he's 81.
Yeah.
But
a
if
bunch
he's playing
of kids
against children.
Yeah, I don't know
I would pay to see that.
No. I think it's a really important point, and the city itself can be move pretty quick when it wants to, but I suspect you have no end of examples, and we might get to some today, of things that took the city far longer than it should have sort of taken us sort of to move along, right? Because the sheer amount of things that were asked sort of to do. But I think, Paul, you probably addressed it, which is just because we did something a certain way doesn't mean we do it the same way forever. But we start with principles in any strategy decision. What are the principles we care about? Well, public good. right? Value for dollar, right? Taking care of our, whatever they are, like any decision or strategy, you start with these basic principles. And so if they do continue to exist as a municipal corp, I suspect it will be very different than how we might have remembered them in the past. I guess where I was getting at is like I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know the answer, right? Like we've commissioned endless reports for hundreds of thousands of dollars. There's not a simple solution, much like houselessness, but sometimes you got to paint a wall and do something, right? Perfect's the enemy of good. Like we got to start. We have to change what we've been doing in lots of things in this city.
I think the biggest problem with Real is that, I mean, one of the things is that they were like the exhibition association for 100 years before we saddled them with a stadium, and
we only owe $150 million on that stadium. Is that good news?
The clock is ticking down ever so slowly. So they've been this exhibition association. So I mean, that's going to create this dissensus within the organization, because it's always sort of striving to be the exhibition association. So I think it needs just a name change, and I like the acronym REAL. So I think what we should change it to, so it can refocus its attention on what it does best. I think we should change it to REAL with an extra L, and it should be Regina Entertainment and Livin' Large.
Whoa. Yes.
You're gonna have to lend us some money to do the live large part, though.
Getting that extra.
We could also just amend the UMA, but that's will be part of your guys' delivery and work plan once we delegate all authority and decisions to you.
Okay, thank you. We're going to come with the extra L.
Yeah, we'll throw in the extra L for free.
We will.
How's that sound?
Yeah.
Deal.
All right, so we're on 91.3 FM CJTR Regina Community Radio. Access now.
Tune into the community.
We are. I'm Paul.
Does Access still televise? Do they still televise the baseball games?
I think so.
Remember when you were 8 and you could watch yourself on TV play baseball over there, right? There's nothing that was that was the coolest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can still watch bingo. They do bingo here on Saturdays.
I'll keep that
They actually came down here with their cameras and checked out the sub-basement to see if they should televise this, and they were like, no. They saw us, and they were like, too much fun.
They made a good decision. I'm here live. Yeah, I think that was an astute decision.
Yeah. All right. Last thing that I wanted to talk to you about was, because you are the Ward 3 councillor, so you're the councillor for downtown. A lot of disgruntlement with downtown, a lot of construction in downtown. What can you tell us, and what is downtown going to look like at the end of this construction season?
Okay, it's two quick things. People always say, downtown's a heartbeat of a community. That might be true. Downtowns reflect a community, right? Yeah. So that how progressive are we? How entrepreneurial and robust are we? Are we struggling? I think the downtown reflects how Regina's doing right now, right? Is we're hold on. I think we're going through a transition. I think we're sort of grappling with a lot of deferral. I mean, we're pulling pipes of the downtown from 1913, right? There are people with complex and vulnerable needs downtown. That exists in every downtown across the country. We had the effect of COVID. Prior to COVID, there was 30,000 people working downtown. That's 22% of Regina's entire workforce. Yeah. Downtown is 1% of our land base. It represents 10% of all the property tax we derive. 40% of all the big businesses are down there. No one goes to the edge of a city to check out a coffee shop if they're new, right? They go to the downtown. And so, we're struggling, right? I think part of the reason why we're struggling is the downtown plan was created in 2009, and it said we're going to add, amongst other things, 5,000 extra people to the downtown to live here, right? 2019 OCP said, well, we're going to add 10,000 people to Center Square and 5,000 people to the downtown. And then the census came out in 2021. We lost 16 people from the downtown. We're at 560 people. Yeah. But I think in the end, you can look at all these intersecting policies that have happened with the downtown. Some are the downtown bid, some are private investments, some are civic investments. But if I'm a citizen or if I'm an investor, I want to know what the hell's happening. The amount of times I've been asked, what's happening with the downtown? And so we actually don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of really good policy and ideas, from Scar Street renewal to transportation master plans that intersect with the downtown. We have to lay out very clearly in English, in layman's terms, what our goals of the downtown are, what we're going to do over the next 18 months, hold ourselves accountable in budgeting process to do it, and I'll be open up to some new ideas. And I think we're going to do that. I've been speaking with the mayor and my colleagues about the need for a downtown action plan. We need an injection of capital and confidence. I think the truth is, office isn't coming back in the short term. We want it to. about 15% vacancy. So how do downtowns rejuvenate? Public space. You activate that space. The arts. For sure, residential. There's only a couple buildings in downtown proper that you could do like office to residential sort of conversion, and then you need someone to make a vote of confidence. But we are going to, within the next 12 months, right? We're gonna, a lot of this work will be done. I hope to goodness that some of these small businesses in particular, some of them are moving in other parts of my ward, that they can survive, right? Because the Harvards of the world and the Mitchell Developments of the world, like they're going to survive. I hope the small businesses can survive. But the truth is, in 12 to 18 months, a lot of this work is going to be done. We're going to start on Scar Street, right? There's actually a critical mass of really great things happening. I have no clue whether we could have staged them better or not. I do know that the downtown's a reflection of the city. We ignored our infrastructure. We ignored the needs. But you know what? Globe Theater's cool, right? They got to raise a little bit of money still, but it's absolutely an amazing building, right? Maureen Donnelly's sort of place there. That's super, super cool. And you know what? Like, the public library, I think a lot of people sometimes, don't realize how material what they're trying to pull off sort of there could be for the downtown. It's really creative, a developer-led solution. It could coincide with housing. It could coincide with retail. It could coincide with revitalizing an existing sort of entity as it stands. But I'm pretty optimistic that in like 18 months, people are going to have a different perception of the downtown. Success begets success. You got to paint a wall sometimes. The reality is the data shows that the downtown is still pretty safe. Perceptions of safety are different than sort of actual sort of indications of safety. But I hear anecdotally, too, that people are saying, no, the AROs, the street team, that's helping. But, when you beautify, when you invest in public space, when you activate that space, when you support the arts, what happens after that? Well, you start getting some of the retail, you start getting some of the restaurants. What happens after that? People want to come, right? We've always been a downtown where, we have tens of thousands of people that leave after work. We want to hold those people for a couple more hours, right? So it's vibrant. And then slowly, as we start thinking of the downtown move maybe a little more south, right, towards college there. I actually think, to administration's credit, like this new council had nothing to do with it. We were just like learning where to sit. But there has been some adjustments with the HAF dollars and some of the new incentives and bylaw changes to encourage some of that stuff. And so I'm actually really optimistic. I'm way more optimistic about the downtown than I'm about us solving houselessness.
Okay, two things. One, there is already an action plan, right? Like that was like I think Section 5 of the Downtown Neighborhood Plan.
You're the only person that's read it.
Action plan. I may be at this point. Yeah. And it laid out like a script, like short, medium, and long term, what's supposed to be done in the downtown. I think we've hit.
And what year?
3 items.
What year was that?
It was written in 2000. Well, it was published in 2009. It was made a bylaw in 2011.
I think, though, respectfully, that's what I said. So, like any business or nonprofit worth their weight is reviewing their strategic plan every 3 years.
I'm saying, though, that I'm not disputing that. I'm saying that we had an action plan, and it was great. And everybody got behind it. It was like a massive public consultation that went into this document, and it was not implemented. And so, if 12 to 18 months from now you have a new action plan, that could go on the shelf right next to the old.
But when I say action plan, I use that very intentionally as not a strategy, not a master plan. The idea is you take the existing work, and then we become accountability partners, Paul. We say, hey, we didn't do this. We didn't budget for it. We had no performance indicators or timelines on it. So it's actually taking the stuff we've already done, all that hard work. ARBID has a visioning plan, right? Yeah. And it's actually saying, okay, what did we say we were going to do when? And you hold yourself accountable by sort of recommitting to that publicly to do that. So I'm actually in violent agreement with you. This is not at all about...
Or don't be violently in agreement.
I like that line. We were saying that the other day. No, but I
joyfully in agreement.
I'm joyfully and gregariously in agreement with you. But there is a benefit sometimes in recommitting and taking a look. You might find the odd epiphany here or there. Yeah. But it's mostly about holding ourselves accountable to what you just said, the plans that already exist, acknowledging that, our downtown has changed a little bit, right, as every downtown in Canada has.
Sure. Yeah. I guess the last thing on this is, what about, because there is this construction project that has been going on for a few years. I think, people have gotten very frustrated with 11th. And if they find out that once 11th is done, we're going to start digging up Scarth, I think some people might start flipping tables. So What is, like, have you seen the pictures? Like, what is 11th going to look like at the end of this construction season?
Anyone can, actually, they've done a good job. Anyone can go on the City of Regina website, just like Google, City of Regina downtown construction, and you can see architectural renderings and, in fact, videos of what it will look like. So you're looking at greenery and boulevards and new sidewalks, and you're looking at community gathering places, along with the critical infrastructure that actually make a city work, like power and telecommunications. It's going to be really lovely.
And this
right?
will be done at the end of this construction season?
Yeah, you bet. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, most of it.
Okay.
This isn't live or recorded, is it?
Both.
No, hey, you know what? Like, people should be frustrated. There's nothing wrong with being frustrated. Yeah. But also, like, let's acknowledge that when we just kick things down the can, right? We could defer the aquatic center another 15 years too, and what will happen? Like, it will be more money and it will take longer, right? So, like, sometimes you got to rip off a Band-Aid and do stuff. You got to acknowledge the pain that it's causing businesses and the frustration for residents. But you know what? If you go to Regina downtown today, and you park and you walk, like, it's going to take you an extra 5 minutes to navigate the downtown. So I think people should go eat down there, support the retailers. Don't avoid the downtown. Like, be frustrated, email your counselor. But, like, honestly, I'm there all the time. It does not take that much more effort to walk and move. It is an inconvenience. It is not insurmountable.
Brilliant. Okay, on that note, I think we're almost out of time.
Are we?
If you can believe it.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Wow, it was great.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks, you guys. This was a lot of fun, notwithstanding the smell down here. This was great.
Yeah.
Sorry, we've been working on that, but we have no budget.
We've been trying to make soap.
Hey, neither do we. Innovative revenue tools.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We
no,
need
thanks,
more.
you guys.
More of those. Yeah, cheers. Okay, well, I think we should wrap her up.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
You do.
I do. Do you second?
I will second that motion.
All right, seconded. Meeting is adjourned. You've been listening to the Queen City Improvement Bureau on 91.3 FM, CJTR Access Community Radio. Who knows?
Access Now.
Access Now, Community Radio. Can't believe I got that wrong. We are broadcast on Thursday evenings live, 7 to 8 p.m. We broadcast Monday afternoons, 3 to 4 p.m. I am Aidan Morgan, and my co-host, Paul Deschen. Guest tonight, Councillor David Froh, Ward 3, and Sheldon graduate. As I found out. Music by Guidewire, a.k.a. Ryan Hill, and occasional music by Kimberly Fury. You can find us also on our website, queencityab.com. Find us on Blue Sky as well. And that is all. Coming up next, there's maybe the record room, but there's music all on through the night. That's it. Keep on improving, Regina.